in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I had been known as a wicked woman since I was small. I struck my parents and bullied my siblings, letting my notoriety spread far and wide. Consequently, even at the age of 28, no one dared to marry me, so I was forced to become the second wife of a military general who had lost his first spouse. Before crossing the threshold, I resolved to make the Shen family submit to my will, ensuring they would fear me from this day forward. However, the moment I stepped into the Shen residence, a tiny girl, looking as soft and timid as a glutinous rice ball, tugged at the hem of my dress. She hesitated before asking, "Are you my mother? Do I really have a mother now?" I stood there frozen, as if I were looking at my own 8-year-old self. On the 6th day of the first lunar month, the entire household was jubilant because the living demon of the family, Scarlet Song, was finally getting married. Before my departure, stepmother She came to see me off one last time, casually slipping a jade bracelet of little value onto my wrist. "Scarlet, you are getting married today, and as your mother, I truly cannot bear to part with you." She pretended to wipe her eyes with a handkerchief. Naturally, there was not a single tear. I let out a faint smile and said, "Is that so? If you cannot bear to let me go, then perhaps I should call off the wedding." Her face turned pale and her body went stiff. "Stop it, do not speak such nonsense. I must remember to lock your room tight. If the Shen family finds you unsuitable, you might come back." Stepmother She nearly collapsed in shock and hurriedly called for the servants. "Oh heavens! Quickly get her into the bridal sedan." Just like that, I was rushed into the sedan and carried to the Shen manor. However, when it came time for the bowing ceremony, standing beside me was a large rooster. My husband, Marcus Shen, was currently stationed at the border guarding the city and had no time to return to complete the wedding rituals with me. The Shen family was a lineage of prestige and renown, and Marcus was the general of the Far West. Such a good marriage would normally never have fallen to me. It was a pity that Marcus was fated to be unlucky with wives. His first wife passed away while their second daughter was still in swaddling clothes. Marcus spent all year fighting in wars and rarely returned to the capital, leaving his 2 daughters in the care of old Madame Shen and his eldest brother's family. The matter of remarriage had been postponed indefinitely until now, when the 2 girls had grown and needed a mother to educate them. So the wedding was hurriedly arranged. Marcus only returned home once a year, so marrying here was no different from becoming a widow. No daughter a noble family would agree to be his wife. But for me, this was an incredibly wonderful marriage. I would not have to worry about a man troubling me, yet I could hold a large fortune in my hands, so there was no reason to refuse. A few crows from the rooster replaced the groom's vows to complete the ceremony. Under the pitying gazes of the guests, I was led into the bridal chamber. Outside, the drums and trumpets were festive, while inside, the matchmaker made the bed and recited blessings, creating a very lively atmosphere. At that moment, 2 little girls entered the room carrying a basin of water. Without asking, I knew the older one was the eldest daughter, Mina, and the younger one was the second daughter, Jade. Both girls were lovely, no different from precious gems, yet they were timid and fearful, seeming very afraid of me. I was just about to call them closer when I heard a sharp reprimand, asking what they were waiting for and ordering them to serve the madam and wash her hands. It turned out to be a woman dressed in magnificent attire. Seeing that the 2 children dared not step forward, she secretly pinched Mina hard. Mina trembled and lowered her head further. I frowned slightly, guessing that this woman was Marcus's sister-in-law, Lydia Liu. Before marrying, I had heard that although the Shen family had few members, everyone was gentle and kind. Looking at this scene, it seemed the rumors were false. It was a pity that I was not a kind person either. From the moment I stepped through the door of the Shen family, these 2 little girls belonged to me in name. If anyone was to discipline them, it would be me, so why would it be anyone else's turn? "Greetings, sister-in-law Lydia." I stood up and, without waiting for Lydia to speak, said, "It is Mina's first time meeting me, so fearing a stranger is normal. She can be taught slowly, so there is no need for you to pinch her." Lydia did not expect me to give her no face as soon as I entered, and she looked slightly surprised but quickly regained her composure, smiling as she replied that she had never pinched the child, and that I must have been mistaken. "Mina, did I pinch you?" Lydia looked at Mina. Mina shook her head in fear, pulling her younger sister's hand and quickly stepping towards me. "Please wash your hands, madam." The voices of the two children were immature, but their attitude was cautious, clearly showing they had been disciplined too harshly. I furrowed my brows and told them to lift their heads so I could see. The two girls hesitated for a moment before timidly looking up. I took the basin of water from their hands, set it aside, and then gently caressed their cheeks, smiling as I praised them for being two little beauties who made one's heart ache just by looking at them. Mina blushed and turned her head to avoid my gaze without answering. Jade looked up timidly and asked softly, "Are you my mother? Do I really have a mother now?" I froze for a moment, seemingly seeing my own timid and shy 8-year-old self when my stepmother first entered the house. Mina panicked and turned around to tug hard at the hem of Jade's clothes, calling me madam. I snapped back to reality, held Mina's hand, and pulled both girls into my embrace. "Do not be afraid of me. Jade is right, since I have married into this family. I am your mother. In the future, if anyone dares to bully you, just tell me and I will stand up to protect you." Mina was stunned, lowering her eyes in silence. Lydia pursed her lips in a faint smile and said that the children were the precious young ladies of the Shen family, so who would dare to bully them? She mocked me for worrying too much and acting like the mistress of the house as soon as I walked through the door. Her words were clearly sarcastic. I simply regarded those words as a compliment and replied that she was absolutely right. From the moment I stepped into the Shen family, I became the mother of Mina and Jade. Must loving my children wait until tomorrow to begin? This statement was unconventional but not wrong, causing the people around to chuckle. Lydia was choked with words, clearly wanting to say something more, but with so many people present, it was inconvenient to flare up, so she had to swallow her anger. She said there were still guests waiting and she had to attend to them. After speaking, she forced a stiff smile and left, nursing her anger. The two girls remained in the room, and seeing Lydia leave, Jade gently tugged at my clothes and timidly called me mother. My heart melted, and I hugged her, telling her that she was a good girl. I turned to look at Mina, but she just turned her face away, staring coldly at the floor without saying a word. Although I knew this could not be forced, my nature preferred strong measures. I immediately pulled Mina over, hugged her, and firmly said that Mina was also a good girl. By the afternoon I had grasped the layout of the Shen manor. The Shen family had 3 large courtyards. Besides me and the 2 little girls, the manor also housed old Madame Shen and the eldest brother's family. The eldest brother, Arthur Shen, held a position as a minor official in the Ministry of Rights, and he was the one who had represented Marcus to welcome the bride this morning. Arthur and Lydia had a 9-year-old son named Tyler Shen. Males were rare in the Shen family, so Tyler was the family's treasure, pampered to the point of being lawless. Mina and Jade avoided him whenever they saw him, and it seemed they had been bullied by him not a few times. After dinner, I sat before the bronze mirror adjusting my hairpin, when I suddenly saw a small head peeking out from the door, secretly watching me. It was Jade. I waved my hand to call her over. Jade shrank back a little, then happily ran in and threw herself into my arms. I asked why she did not call me, reminding her what she had called me earlier. Jade blushed and shyly called me mother. I praised her for being good and asked where her sister was. She replied that her sister had gone to sleep. I then asked why she had run over here. Jade crumpled the hem of her shirt and hesitated before asking if I could sleep with her. Her mother had passed away when she was still in swaddling clothes. Seeing others cared for by a mother while she had none, she must have felt very aggrieved. Now that she had a mother, she naturally longed to be loved and have her mother make up for what she lacked. I understood her, for I had once been the same. I agreed, stood up, and took her small hand, saying we would go find her sister to sleep together. Jade was happy, her eyes shining with joy. The 2 little girls lived in the room on the left side of the courtyard. When I entered, I saw Mina wearing thin clothes, standing barefoot on the ground, while next to her was an old woman with hands on her hips, scolding profusely. I stood at the door and asked coldly what was going on. Nanny Wang was startled and hurriedly bowed with a forced smile. "Oh, second madam." She explained that Miss Mina had spilled the water in the foot basin while getting into bed, and she was disciplining her. I looked down and indeed saw a puddle of water at Mina's feet. The child stood in it, her body trembling from cold, her head bowed low as if she were used to being scolded. I was extremely angry and stared at the old woman. "Oh, so you know she is a young lady. If water is spilled, just order someone to clean it up, instead of worrying about her health. You scold her. What kind of logic is this?" Nanny Wang hesitated and replied that I did not understand. She claimed that Miss Mina had always been ungrateful, but I coldly interrupted her, stating that no matter how wrong she was, it was not for a servant like her to speak. Nanny Wang did not expect me to be so blunt. Her face flushed red, and she cried out indignantly that although she was a servant, she was also the eldest master's nanny, and not of low status. She argued that since Miss Mina and Miss Jade had no mother to teach them, if the servants did not manage them, they would be spoiled, and the second master would surely blame them. I laughed coldly and loudly asked if she was crazy. The mother of the two young ladies is standing right here, yet you dare say they have no mother to teach them, or do you look down on me? Nanny Wang felt guilty and stammered that she did not mean that. Without waiting for her to finish, I raised my hand and slapped her straight across the face. I told her that although I was a second wife, I was properly married by the second master. If she thought I was young and ignorant, or easily bullied, she was wrong. This slap was a warning, and if she dared to be disrespectful to the young ladies again, I would end her life. Nanny Wang held her face in shock, burst into tears, and ran out. I did not care, simply calmly telling Mina to get into bed and ordering someone to clean the room and bring warm water to wash her feet. Soon after, the old woman led Lydia in, wailing as she walked, complaining to the first madam that she no longer wanted to live. She claimed she had been devoted all her life and never made a mistake, not even blamed by old Madam Shen. Yet the new second madam treated her like livestock. Lydia arrived, looking at me with dissatisfaction but not wanting to confront me directly, and asked what the commotion was about and why I was treating an elder of the family this way. I calmly wiped my feet without looking up, telling her to ask the old woman what she had done to Miss Mina before I arrived. Lydia froze. She must have known how these servants treated the children, but since no one had intervened before, she thought it would pass. Now that I was here, she forced a smile and signaled the old woman, implying it was just a misunderstanding. However, the old woman did not take the hint and insisted there was no misunderstanding, claiming the second master entrusted the children to her, and in her 20 years at the Shen family, she had never been slapped. I sneered and said if Nanny Wang was not convinced, we could invite someone to arbitrate. Since she was the eldest master's nanny and highly respected by him, I suggested inviting Arthur to the front hall, or else we could go to the government office. Lydia panicked and said to stop, claiming the eldest master was too busy to bother with backyard matters. Arthur was entertaining colleagues in the front hall, and if this matter caused a scene, people would say his nanny was bullying the new bride, causing the Shen family to lose face. Lydia decided that today was just a misunderstanding and urged everyone to rest early. She hurriedly dragged the old woman out, whispering blame for provoking me and reminding her that I was rumored to beat even my own parents. When they were gone, I closed the door and tucked Mina in. I told her that if anyone dared to bully them in the future, she should tell me, and I would absolutely not spare them. Mina looked at me with complex eyes. After a long while, she pursed her lips, gave a soft affirmation, and turned her back to lie down. She was 3 years older than Jade, and her thoughts were deeper, making it hard to guess what she was thinking. Standing there for a moment, I suddenly heard Jade softly call me to sleep. I smiled, climbed onto the bed, squeezed between the two children, and hugged them both to sleep. When I woke up early in the morning, only Jade remained in my arms. Mina had crawled to the head of the bed at some point, curling herself into a ball and occupying a small corner to avoid touching me. I sighed softly. Perhaps this melon was too big to be forced down. I had no other choice. As long as she did not oppose me in the future, it would be enough. I gently sat up, returned to my room to wash and dress, and then walked to the main room in the backyard. I had caused a storm yesterday, so naturally, I had incurred resentment. Before even entering the door, I heard displeasure radiating from within. Looking up, I saw Arthur and Lydia sitting to one side, while old Madame Shen sat in the seat of honor, her face full of dissatisfaction. She sarcastically remarked that I was a capable daughter-in-law, making an old woman wait for me as soon as I entered the family. I looked up innocently and said it was only early dawn, so I was not late, asking why the old madam was angry. Hearing my words, old Madame Shen became even more furious, scolding that as a junior, I should wake up early to serve the elders, wash their faces, and offer tea. She complained that I was lazy, waking up at this hour and taking half an hour to wash, making the elders wait, which was truly improper. As she spoke, Arthur and Lydia leisurely sipped their tea, looking as if they were watching a good play. No wonder Lydia had yielded to me everywhere yesterday. It turned out she had calculated this, wanting someone else to strike on her behalf. I laughed coldly in my heart, then quickly changed to a tearful appearance, bowing my head to say I did not know the manor had such rules, and that it was my fault. I begged the old madam to forgive me and not damage her health with anger. I admitted my mistake so quickly that old Madame Shen was momentarily speechless, and even Lydia looked at me with suspicion. She coughed and started to mention yesterday, but I quickly added that I had unintentionally offended my sister-in-law yesterday due to not understanding the rules, and I had regretted it all night, promising never to dare again. She stammered that it was good I admitted my fault. Since I had bowed my head, old Madame Shen could not speak further without appearing to bully the new bride. She had to suppress her anger and reluctantly ordered me to serve them breakfast. Serving them was ridiculous. Did they keep a house full of servants just for show? However, I did not argue and obediently followed them to the dining room. Waiting for everyone to sit down, I quickly brought a bowl of porridge to the table, and then suddenly let go. The porridge spilled straight onto old Madame Shen. I cried out in apology, claiming I had stepped on my skirt, and hurriedly wiped her with a handkerchief in a clumsy manner. Then I went to fetch a bowl of hot soup, and crash, this time it spilled onto Arthur and Lydia. All three stood up simultaneously. They accused me of doing it on purpose. I retreated 2 steps in fear, my eyes red and looking pitiful. I apologized profusely, saying I did not mean to, as at home, my mother always served me. The 3 of them stared at me, and the silence was deafening. I was kicked out, and old Madame Shen told me to go back to my room and reflect. Just reflecting was not enough. I was determined to serve them until they were satisfied. The next day, at the very beginning of the dawn hour, before the roosters had even crowed, I woke up. I called out that I had come to serve the old madam, and then went to serve my eldest brother and sister-in-law. The 3 were woken from their sleep, groggy, only to realize it was not yet dawn. The servants had not even started cooking, so they had to sit and wait for daylight. They were full of anger, but seeing my enthusiastic face, they could not conveniently get angry and had to endure it. On the 3rd and 4th days, I continued doing the same. The 3 of them were forced by me to get up early every day. Lacking sleep, everyone had dark circles under their eyes, and they were on the verge of going mad. On the 5th day, when I went to knock on old Madame Shen's door again, she could not take it anymore, banging on the bed and scolding me, asking if I was crazy and what I wanted by making such a noise at this hour. I chuckled inwardly but still pretended to be innocent, replying that she had said a new bride must wake up early to serve elders, so I was just following orders, adding that the early morning air was good for her health. I pulled her up and clumsily helped her dress, then turned to Arthur and Lydia's room. Before I reached the door, I heard Lydia crying. She complained that the demon was coming again. She said she thought I was unruly and would mistreat the children, forcing Marcus to give them to her to raise along with the money, but she had ended up dropping a rock on her own foot. It turned out the Shen family had heard of my reputation as a wicked woman, but still dared to marry me because of this calculation. They spent Marcus's money while mistreating his 2 daughters, which was truly disgusting. I decided I had to find a way to get that money back. I waited a while before knocking on the door, cheerfully announcing that I had come to serve my eldest brother and sister-in-law. On the 6th day of the 1st lunar month, the Shen family held a grand banquet to welcome guests. This was supposedly to celebrate my marriage, but in reality, it was a lively scene hiding clever calculations. I woke up early to prepare. During the banquet, Lydia chatted happily with the relatives, but I preferred to stay in the courtyard with the children to make lanterns. Jade and I made a rabbit lantern, but Mina stood far away, not participating, only bowing her head to make something shapeless. After lunch, I realized Mina was missing. Suspicious, I left the banquet to search for her. Passing by the ancestral hall, I heard sobbing. Walking in, I saw Mina bending over, hiding something behind her back, looking at me in panic. I discovered it was her late mother's memorial tablet. Beside her was a crushed lantern she said was meant to be the moon, to look at when she missed her mother. I did not get angry. Instead, I comforted her, saying that missing her mother was natural and offered to make her a new lantern. Just at that moment, a noise came from outside. "Oh, sister-in-law, why are you here?" Lydia rushed over. Seeing the memorial tablet in my hand, she immediately cried out, "Sister, today is the Lantern Festival. It is only natural for Mina to miss her mother and come here to pay respects. She has no intention of opposing you, So please be generous and do not blame her anymore. I turned back to look at Lydia and the group of female relatives whispering outside the door. Suddenly, I understood everything. This was a trap Lydia had set. To be precise, this was not the first time I had been plotted against. I recalled the time my stepmother falsely accused me before our clansmen of being unruly and difficult to tame. What did I do back then? I beat her right there on the spot. When my father came to intervene, I beat him too. Since I already bore a wicked reputation, I would absolutely not accept being wronged. Just as I was about to explode in anger, Mina suddenly pushed Lydia away and ran to stand beside me. That is not what happened. The entire ancestral hall fell silent. Mina bit her lip, looked up at everyone, and calmly said, "I broke the lantern myself, and the madam did not blame me. On the contrary, she even said she would make me new one to remember my mother." I was stunned. Lydia was also struck dumb, hurriedly signaling to Mina with her eyes. "Mina, how can that be? Did that woman threaten you?" "Do not be afraid, your aunt is here," Mina replied calmly, her eyes no longer wavering. Lydia did not understand why Mina had changed her mind and could only stand there speechless. The female relatives outside realized it was just a misunderstanding. They breathed a sigh of relief, profusely apologized to me, and then dragged Lydia away. Waiting for everyone to leave, I turned to look at Mina, wanting to ask why she had agreed to harm me and why she had suddenly changed her mind. However, in the end, and did not ask. I wanted to let her speak for herself. After a long while, Mina finally looked up, her eyes red, and whispered, "They said you had a venomous heart, were unruly and jealous, and did not even treat your own parents well. They said that later, if you had a son, you would treat me and Jade even worse. Is that true?" I did not rush to refute her but simply asked, "Mina, who told you that? Was it your aunt and the nannies in the house, and do you believe them?" She was silent for a moment before replying. "Father once said that what you hear is false, but what you see is true." I asked, "Then do you believe the words of others or do you believe in what you see?" Mina bowed her head and whispered, "I believe what I see." She looked up, her eyes still red, her voice soft but firm. "Today, Aunt Lydia told me to lead you here. She said if we drove you away, there would be no little brother, and Jade and I would not be bullied anymore." I smiled softly and said, "Mina, I will not bully you and Jade. You know that." She reached out and took my hand. "Let us make lanterns, okay?" After Lydia's plan failed, she guessed that Mina had betrayed her. From then on, Lydia completely tore off her mask and no longer bothered to pretend to be gentle with me. On the night of the Lantern Festival, I made a moon-shaped lantern with Mina and hung it in the ancestral hall to honor her biological mother. When I returned, I saw Jade sitting under a tree, her eyes red, holding a crushed rabbit lantern in her hand. "Jade, why are you crying? What happened to the lantern?" Jade wiped her tears, bowed her head and mumbled, "I was careless and stepped on it myself. I am sorry, mother." I frowned. The child bowed her head to admit fault, but the grievance on her face was impossible to hide. I asked if someone had bullied her. Jade remained silent, only letting her tears fall quietly. I turned sternly to the maid standing nearby and asked what had actually happened. Frightened by my cold gaze, the maid stammered, "It was Master Tyler. He demanded the lantern, but Miss Jade refused, so he stomped on the lantern and then beat Miss Jade." Hearing this, I pulled Jade closer to inspect her. Sure enough, her knees and wrists were scraped and bleeding. I asked, "Hey, hit you, and you did not hit back?" Jade lowered her head, her voice as small as a mosquito. I did not dare." The child was naturally timid, being bullied, she dared not even cry out, let alone fight back. I was silent for a moment, then dragged Jade into the room and took a ruler out of the chest. I said, "Jade, come here and stand firm." Jade walked trembling towards me, her hands clenched tight, tears falling like rain. "Mother, I am sorry, I was wrong." I asked where she was wrong. She said she did not know. I retorted that if she did not even know where she was wrong, what was she apologizing for? I half knelt, shoved the ruler into Jade's hand, and then held out my own hand, ordering her to hit me. Jade was terrified and hurriedly shook her head, saying she dared not. I commanded, "I am telling you to hit. Pretend I am the one who bullied you and use all your strength to hit. Hurry up, or do you not even have a backbone?" Under my pressure, Jade screamed in despair and swung the ruler down onto my hand. Smack! The child stared in shock at the ruler in her hand, her face pale. She looked up at me as if she had just experienced a nightmare, but I just smiled with satisfaction. I could protect Jade, and I could go settle the score with Tyler, but doing so would only protect her temporarily. If I were not here in the future, who would help her? I wanted Jade to learn how to resist, to learn to stand up and protect herself. To a child, parents are the greatest sky. If she dared to shatter this sky, then there would be nothing left in the world to fear. Well done, Jade. In the future, if anyone bullies you, fight back just like this. With Mother here, you do not have to fear anything. Jade burst into tears, threw herself into my arms, and cried for a long time before finally letting go of the ruler and resting her head on my chest. I had thought that with Jade's low self-esteem and weak nature, it would take a long time for her to change. Unexpectedly, the child was stronger than I thought. The very next day, she beat Tyler black and blue. At that time, I was busy demanding that Lydia and old Madame Shen hand over the account books and the keys to the treasury. Since the day I married, they had never let me see the treasury, making excuses every time I asked. Before, I planned to calculate slowly, but now that the mask was torn, I saw no need to be polite. However, thick-skinned as they were, they only knew how to dodge and evade, refusing to hand over the keys. Just as we were in a deadlock, a servant ran in shouting that it was a disaster. Master Tyler was fighting with Miss Jade. My heart tightened and I rushed over. Lydia followed leisurely, as she always thought her son never suffered a loss. However, when we arrived, she froze in horror. Tyler's face was swollen, his nose was bleeding into his mouth, and he was crying so hard he could not speak clearly. He had been thoroughly beaten. Jade, on the other hand, only had slightly messy hair, but was otherwise unharmed. Oh heavens, my son, how were you beaten like this? Lydia rushed over to hug Tyler, crying and pointing at Jade to scold her. You little wench, have you gone crazy today? How dare you hit your cousin like this? Jade and Tyler were of similar age, but girls grow faster. Unexpectedly in a fight she did not suffer at all. I breathed a sigh of relief, pulled Jade over, and wiped the dirt off her face. How useless, a boy beaten by a girl, and you still dare to cry. Lydia screamed, Scarlet Song, how are you teaching your child? Tyler is the only son of the Shen family. If something happens to him, can you pay for it? I stood up, my voice full of mockery. So what if he is the only son? Our daughter's not flesh and blood, born of a mother and raised by a father. I continued. Let me tell you, if your son dares to bully my daughter again, I will castrate him and turn Master Tyler in Miss Tyler. Lydia trembled and asked if I dared. I replied, try me. If you cannot teach your son, just wait and see. At worst, I will go to jail, and we shall see if I suffer more or if your son suffers more by becoming a eunuch. But remember this, although my family is not of high nobility, I am the daughter of an official. My maternal grandfather came from the river transport business, and my uncle is a convoy leader in Danzhou. Once I am in prison, people from the underworld will surely come to find you to demand justice. Whether you can keep your lives then is your problem. You are a vicious woman. Lydia trembled as she hugged Tyler, finally understanding that my reputation as a female demon was not a rumor. While the two sides were arguing, the old madam was shaking with rage and shouted, You are too bold. I did not bother saving face anymore and slammed the table. You are the bold one. As an elder, you are biased towards Arthur and Lydia, letting them act like parasites on my husband while treating his daughters poorly. Do you think I know nothing? The Shen family spends money like water. How could the salary of a minor official like Arthur be enough? If not for my husband, you would not be living so comfortably now. So why are you putting on airs here? Scarlet, you are speaking nonsense. The money from the second master was all spent on raising Mina and Jade. I retorted. If that is so, why do you not dare to let me see the account books? At the mention of money, Lydia and the old madam immediately became awkward. Fine, I said. Since there is no trust left, we might as well divide the family assets. Everyone keeps what is theirs, and no one needs to rely on anyone else. Taking advantage of the chaos, I snatched the keys from Lydia's hand and rushed straight to the treasury. Lydia and the old madam were terrified and tried to stop me, but it was too late. The treasury was cold and empty. The wealth Marcus had accumulated over the years had been spent clean by them. Very good, I said. You even spent the dowry meant for the two children. You are truly shameless beyond words. Did you not say it was used to raise Mina and Jade? Let's see if you can tell a single truth. I lunged to grab the account books. Lydia went mad and hurriedly called the servants to stop me. The entire room descended into chaos, with everyone fighting. Mina and Jade were squeezed into a corner, crying in fear. Just then, a voice from outside announced, Not good, the second master has returned. Before the words were finished, the announcer was dragged away. Everyone immediately stopped fighting and turned to the door in shock. only to see Marcus, dressed in armor, walking in with a cold expression. "What is everyone doing here?" "Daddy." Mina and Jade immediately rushed into Marcus's arms. Marcus held the two children, looking up with cold eyes directed at us. He was tall, his face hard, carrying a solemn killing aura, his eyes sharp as a wolf, making people tremble. For a moment, I forgot this was my husband, my hand still clutched a wooden stick, and I did not know what to do next. Conversely, Lydia and the old madam reacted very quickly. "Marcus, you are finally back. This wicked woman wants to kill us. We treated her so well, but she is insatiably greedy, bullying us because we are soft-hearted. She beat Tyler and wants to seize the family property. We are truly being bullied to death by her." The two of them cried and accused me, speaking nonsense without a hint of shame. Marcus pondered for a moment, his gaze stopping on me, his emotions hard to read. "Madam, is what my sister-in-law and grandmother said true?" I threw the wooden stick to the ground intending to explain, but Jade was already sobbing loudly. "They are lying. Mother did not bully them, they are the ones who bullied Mother." Marcus was slightly stunned, perhaps he did not expect Jade to call me mother. For a moment, his expression showed surprise, and then he turned to look at Mina. "Mina, you speak." Mina turned to look at me, her lips pressed tight, then calmly replied, "Father, Mother never bullied grandmother or Aunt Lydia. On the contrary, Aunt Lydia has forced Mother many times. Even during the Lantern Festival, Aunt Lydia taught me to frame Mother, telling me to say in front of everyone that Mother mistreated me. But I did not do it because Mother is a very good person, and I did not want to harm her." Lydia panicked and screamed, "Mina, are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking about?" "Marcus, I never did such things, it must be Scarlet who forced Mina." Marcus coldly interrupted, "Right and wrong, I have understood." His gaze shifted to me, and in that look, a trace of complexity appeared. "Today you broke into the treasury for what reason?" I was used to facing everything alone, so now being defended by two children felt unfamiliar, and my momentum weakened slightly. "I wanted to see the account books. They embezzled your assets and even spent the dowry you left for the two children." Lydia stammered, "Do not slander us. Marcus, do you not believe me and grandmother? Sister-in-law, you should be careful with your words, she is my wife, and there are no outsiders here." Marcus turned and signaled his subordinates with his eyes. They received the order and immediately rushed into the treasury. Seeing this, the old madam rolled her eyes and pretended to faint, while Lydia screamed, "Do not look at the books. Grandmother has fainted." Marcus crouched down, observed for a moment, and then used his thumb to press hard on the old madam's acupoint above her lip. The old madam, who was faking it, was in so much pain that she opened her eyes and yelled, "Stop pressing, stop pressing." After checking the account books all afternoon, Lydia and the old madam finally exhausted their energy. Over the years, all of Marcus's salary and rewards had indeed been squandered by them, while the amount spent on Mina and Jade was almost negligible. Marcus's face grew heavier the more he looked, while Lydia and the old madam lowered their heads, daring not to look up. At dusk, Arthur returned from the government office. As soon as he entered, he sensed something was wrong and hurriedly pointed at Lydia and scolded, "Marcus, it is all her fault. I will go back and scold her properly." "Brother, do not be angry. Do not let this damage our brotherhood." "Does Big Brother still remember we are brothers?" Marcus said. "All these years, by the Emperor's order, I guarded the border and could not teach my children myself. I repeatedly asked to entrust my daughters to you, yet how have you treated them?" Arthur felt ashamed, secretly turning his face away, not daring to speak. Marcus looked coldly around at them, suppressing the anger in his heart. "From today on, we will separate the family. The assets you greedily seized, consider them my act of filial piety to grandmother. From now on, everyone lives their own life, unrelated to each other." Although Lydia and the old madam cried and expressed regret, the family was eventually divided. That night, Marcus ordered his subordinates to build a wall, splitting the house into two parts. While the men built the wall, Marcus and I sat in a room facing each other, silent, not knowing what to say. Although we were husband and wife, this was the first time we truly met, feeling strange and awkward. After washing their feet, Mina and Jade ran into the room to play, showing Marcus the scented sachets they had embroidered. "The embroidery is beautiful, much improved from 2 years ago," Marcus praised. "Mother taught us. Mother also taught us how to write," Jade said, running to get her practice book to show Marcus. The room became lively for a while until the two children grew tired and were carried away by the maids. Marcus held the scented sachet and turned to look at me. Thank you. You have taught the two children well. I replied. No need to thank me. Wasn't this all part of your plan? Marcus stiffened slightly. I took an unfinished handkerchief from the sewing basket, turning it over in my hands, and said, At first, I thought you married me because you had no other choice. Only later did I hear from Lydia that you insisted on marrying me. I continued. This is very strange. I have a bad reputation, and others avoid me. Why did you insist on marrying me? Unless you had met me before, understood me well, knew that my eyes cannot tolerate sand, and was certain I would treat your daughters well. The air was silent for a few seconds before Marcus laughed softly. Indeed, nothing escapes my wife's eyes. He sighed and said gently, Actually, I met you a long time ago. Many years ago when I returned to the capital to take up a post, I saw you fighting with your stepmother, Madame C. You won and happily went to eat a bowl of noodles by the roadside. That day, everyone said you were rude, but I saw you wiping away tears while you ate. On your way home, you even took off your outer coat for a shivering beggar child. I knew you were definitely not what people said. He paused. In recent years, Mina and Jade grew up and spoke less and less. I began to realize they were not living well, but there were some things I could not conveniently do. So, I thought of you. You are famous for being a fierce woman. If something really happened with my sister-in-law and the old madam, you would surely not spare them. Making a big scene would allow me to smoothly cut ties with them. He stopped, a hint of guilt flashing in his eyes. Yes, I am sorry. The lamp flickered, and the light in the room dimmed. I curled my lips in a faint smile. It is nothing, I do not mind. Marriage is originally a calculation between two parties, each has their own purpose. If I were truly looking for sincere affection, I would not have agreed to marry you. I added, Husband, you need not say more. From now on, we will live normally. I will teach the children well and not interfere in your affairs. Naturally, in return you must not interfere with mine. My life only asks for two words: freedom. Growing flowers, raising birds, strolling the streets, listening to music. I will not wash dishes or cook for you, nor will I serve you. You can go visit brothels or steal hearts, I do not care, as long as you do not bring it in front of me. Can you do that? He looked at me for a long time, then laughed, his voice dry. Has my wife finished speaking? I have finished. Good. He was silent for a moment, then took a bunches from his chest. Take this. Upon returning to the capital this time, the emperor granted me gold, silver, and land, an amount equal to 10 years of my salary. From now on, it is all handed over to you. Everything you just said, I will comply with. Furthermore, I will not visit brothels or steal hearts, you can rest assured. I thought to myself, how can a man's mouth be trusted? However, his willingness to be open with me could be considered honest. I took the keys and said, Good. Marcus smiled at me for a long time, then clasped his hands and bowed. From now on, I rely on you, wife. After the wall was built, I went to sleep with the two children, leaving Marcus alone. I liked this relationship. Utilizing each other without any emotional attachment saved a lot of trouble. After the separation, Lydia caused quite a commotion. They were used to spending lavishly, and now, losing Marcus's salary, their lives became tight and naturally miserable. Fortunately, Marcus had brought back many subordinates, so no matter how much Lydia screamed, it was just noise. 10 days later, the emperor ordered Marcus to serve as the governor-general of Douanan. Marcus and I discussed it and decided to take the children with us to his new post. Although the capital was beautiful, Lydia and the others visiting every few days annoyed me greatly. It was better to leave for peace and quiet. On the road to the new post, I sat in the carriage teaching the children, while Marcus rode a horse alongside. As time passed, the soldiers in the army began chatting with me, telling stories about Marcus. Only then did I learn that in their eyes, he was a strict, upright man who always kept to etiquette. A soldier sighed. The general is devoted to the country and missed the time for marriage for years. We thought he would live on forever. Fortunately, he met you, madam. They did not know Marcus and I were just using each other. I smiled lightly and said, With or without me, your general would be the same. Who says so? I have noticed that since the general met you, madam, the corners of his mouth have never come down. Is that so? I opened the curtain to look into the distance. Marcus was riding his horse, laughing and scolding a few young soldiers. He had married early, and now at only 32, standing among the young men, he looked like a big brother. Perhaps sensing my gaze, he suddenly turned around. I was startled and hurriedly pulled back, placing my hand on my chest to suppress my pounding heart. I felt ashamed of myself, but truth be told, Marcus's body was indeed fit. I wondered what it would look like unclothed. The carriage traveled for several months and finally arrived in Douanan. I bought a deserted former princely estate, cleaned it up a bit, and the whole family moved in. Mina and Jade each had their own room, but they were very close and mostly stayed in the same room. Sometimes I slept alone, sometimes I slept with them. As for Marcus, he and I were rarely together, only going to his room for a moment when there was something to discuss. After discussing, we would not know what to do, so I would give a dry laugh and return to my room. One night, when it was late, I sat in my room for a long time. I did not know why, but I felt the room was very empty. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. I opened it to look. Marcus stood outside, carrying a bundle of thorns on his bare back, kneeling on one knee, his expression serious. He wore only his undergarments, his collar slightly open, revealing the faint outline of his muscles. I stared, slightly dazed, and hurriedly adjusted my breathing, pretending not to care. "What are you doing?" "I am following the ancient story of carrying thorns to ask for forgiveness. Wife, I was wrong." I asked. "Where were you wrong?" "I was wrong to calculate against you and use you," I replied. "Was this not our agreement? Just mutual utilization. Why apologize?" "Because I like you." He took a deep breath and looked at me, his eyes burning like strong wine. "I want to truly become husband and wife with you. I do not want to continue living in the cold, seeing you every day but not daring to approach. I do not want to be a stranger under the same roof with you. I want you to see my heart." My mind went blank for a moment. I looked at him, his eyes, his body, and I was certain my heart felt the same as his. I leaned down and grabbed his collar. "Then why don't you come in?" The moonlight was like water, we were like two fish swimming in it, playing freely. Later, we never left Douanan. Marcus and I had a son and a daughter, living a peaceful and free life. Mina and Jade stayed at home until they were over 20 before choosing their own husbands and marrying men they liked. Even though they were married, the house kept their rooms, and the furniture inside remained unchanged. People often say a daughter has no home. Once married, she is an outsider in her husband's house and a guest in her mother's house. But I wanted them to know that they still had a home, and they would forever be the masters here. Scarlett's journey teaches us that true virtue isn't about maintaining a gentle image, but having the courage to protect the vulnerable. She used her wicked reputation as a shield to nurture two neglected girls, proving that a mother's love is defined by action, not blood. Ultimately, her fierce independence didn't push love away, it attracted the only man strong enough to match her. It reminds us that when we bravely stand up for others, we often find our own sanctuary. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.